the American Counseling Association's Historic Licensure Interstate Compact Advisory Board in collaboration with the Council of State Governments, National Center for Interstate Compacts. Dr. Izzard has served as a mentor for the American Counseling Association's first national mentoring program for new counseling professionals in 2021. Dr. Izzard serves as a mentor for the American Psychological Association and National Board of Certified Counselors' first collaborative interdisciplinary minority fellowship mentoring program for graduate counseling students of color. Dr. Izzard serves on the board of directors for the National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI, Georgia, and is a founding member of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Dr. Izzard has served in 2019 through 2020 on the Georgia Mental Health Policy Partnership in collaboration with NAMI Georgia, Mental Health America of Georgia, and many more advocacy organizations. Dr. Izzard was recently invited to serve on Clubhouse Board of Directors because of her impeccable work in community mental health leadership. Dr. Izzard was appointed by the Newton County Board of Commissioners to serve as the only Newton County member on the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Region 3 Advisory Council. Dr. Izzard obtained her doctorate degree in counselor education and supervision from Argosy University, Sarasota, her master's degree in mental health counseling from HBCU in the nation, North Carolina A&T State University, woo woo, and her bachelor's degree in psychology from another great HBCU, Fayetteville State University. Dr. Izzard is a pioneer and trailblazer in counselor and community leadership. Dr. Izzard is the epitome of a true historic change agent. During Dr. Izzard's historic presidential term for the ACA of Georgia, she developed the organization's first strategic plan to lead the organization in its first full year of professional development, advocacy, leadership development, service project, counselor support groups, and more than 25 community stakeholder collaborations. Dr. Izzard then courageously finished her term hosting the first multicultural symposium focused, yes, exclusively on African American male wellness in May of 2020, just 1 week prior to the late Mr. George Floyd's murder. Dr. Izzard received the ACA Southern Regional Chair Award for her leadership and advocacy during her term. The very next year, in 2021, Dr. Izzard led NAMI Georgia's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in their first year of virtual panel discussions titled Courageous Conversations around BIPOC, diversity, and mental health amid COVID, collaborating with more than 30 community stakeholders across Georgia. And yes, she did it again, developed and hosted their first African American male mental health symposium focused on mental health restoration, racial equity, and social justice. Dr. Izzard was awarded NAMI's Georgia President Award for her innovative leadership as a founding DEI member. Dr. Izzard also continued and spearheaded the counselor support group under NAMI Georgia that she developed during her counseling presidential term. Dr. Izzard received NAMI's Georgia 2021 Outstanding Leader of the Year Award for her exemplary program leadership. Just when you're thinking, what would Dr. Izzard make history at next? This year, just last month, Dr. Izzard became the first Newton County resident and new candidate to run for State House of Representatives in the new District 93, which encompasses Newton, Rockdale, and DeKalb counties. While Dr. Izzard did not win this seat, she absolutely won by being a community champion and developing more than 30 faith-based and community partnerships throughout her 11-week campaign. Dr. Izzard's taglines were change for recovery and let's recover our communities together, which is the vision she continues to move forward in today. Without further delay, let's bring up my mentor, our host, the beautiful, brilliant, history-making, and mastermind behind this African American Wellness Symposium with a thunderous hand clap. Come on up, Dr. Izzy.
Thank you all so much. Woo, when I hear that bio many times, I'm like, oh God, is this more than I deserve? But I am just so grateful for the gifts that God has placed in me and to be able to utilize those gifts to service mankind. We know that God honors us in such a way when we demonstrate goodwill toward men. And we know what Jesus said. He said that he came to serve and not to be served. And so that's what's in my heart, true servant leadership. So I welcome you all today to this beautiful symposium that I have had the honor and the privilege of hosting years. So this is the third annual African American Male Wellness Symposium. And this year we are going to focus on the theme of mental health equity, community edification, and social change. So you will hear a great lineup of great African American male professional speakers, and they are all going to speak from the heart related to all of those topics. But first, let me share a little bit with all of you about how God placed this vision within my heart. And again, Miss Natasha Daniels did such an amazing job going through my bio and how everything started. But most don't know the as it relates to that vision that God placed in my heart. But I am literally today standing on the shoulders of powerful African American males that have invested in me. Wow. So I have to honor them because they mentored me since I was a child. And they are still mentoring me to this day. So I want to honor my beloved father, James Evans of Greensboro, North Carolina. I want to honor the head and the shepherd of my church home, which is the Berean Christian Church, Dr. Kerwin B. Lee, as well as who works alongside him at Berean Gwinnett, Dr. Kevin Lee. And I also want to honor my home pastor in Greensboro, North Carolina, Wayne Howard Robinson. And you can Google him and find him on Wikipedia as he was an NBA All-Star player. Please do that as well. And he, of course, professional basketball, even overseas, Barcelona, Spain, and Madrid, Spain. And he speaks 4 different languages. Okay. And then last but certainly not least, my beautiful uncle, Clarence Izzard. He is the reason why I came to Georgia in the first place. Wow. He was a resident of the great DeKalb County for more than 20 odd years. And he now is in the beautiful Orlando, Florida, and works for, I won't say the name, I know he's watching, but he works for a very large, huge hotel chain, and he's all the way up at the top. So I thank you for your love and how you have invested in me. But that's where it began. And then God also molded and shaped that vision as I became a licensed counselor. He brought multitudes of men into my office, United States veterans, okay, African American males. He also brought individuals across my path. Medical prison. Yes, the incarcerated. At the time that I worked there, it was 80% African American males. Okay? So again, Dr. Izzy is not new to this. Okay? when it comes to working with African American males. So I'm grateful for this gift that God has bestowed upon me so that I can speak life into African American men. And I can bring other African American men together so that they can speak life into other African American men. So I just wanted to share that little bit with you all so that you know that it's a personal connection as well as a professional connection as well as it relates to the founding of this amazing symposium. So now I'm going to move forward because we have a great lineup of speakers and we want to jump right in so that we don't miss anything. And I am going to now introduce to you all, I'm going to go through and review his bio because I want to give him the introduction that he deserves, which we know he needs no introduction, but I'm definitely going to give him a thorough introduction. So now let me present to you his bio, Dr. Damon Mason, who is our beloved Newton County Commissioner for District 3. Oh, District 2. Thank you so much for correcting me. District 3 is the district I live in. I am so sorry about that. District 2, thank you. Dr. Damon Mason is a native of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Dr. Mason received his Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from Oklahoma City University. Dr. Mason was honored with an honorary doctorate in humanitarianism for his wealth of work as a Newton County Commissioner in District 2. Okay. Dr. Mason is a certified County Commissioner. Dr. Mason is the chairman of the Public Facilities Authority. Dr. Mason is the vice chair of Community for the Economic and Workforce Development Steering Committee for the National Association of Counties, that's NACO for short, and a board member for Newton Mentoring Incorporated. Dr. Mason worked for Atlanta's very own Coca-Cola Company for 16 years in project management. Dr. Mason previously held the position of Vice President in Education through the Coca-Cola Company's chapter of Toastmasters International. Dr. Mason has received several awards from Toastmasters International, such as Best Speaker and Best Table Topics. Dr. Mason also served as chairman of the board of Destined for Greatness Outreach Center, Incorporated in Atlanta, Georgia, through the years of 2014 to 2015. Dr. Mason has a proven record of business experience and servant leadership. Dr. Mason has served on the Newton County Board of Commissioners for District 2 since January 2019. Dr. Mason serves the Newton County Democratic Party as a full committee member and the former parliamentarian. Dr. Mason is active in his local religious assembly, where he has served as the Director of Ministerial Alliance, Director of Married Couples Ministry, Executive Administrative Assistant, and Financial Committee Officer. We know how we need to make sure that money is in order. Dr. Mason has volunteered with several community service organizations, such as Habitat for Humanity, Hosea Williams Feed the Hungry, Books of Africa, the AIDS Walk, and United Latino Association of Rockdale and Newton counties. Dr. Mason is well respected in his community, as we can see. Dr. Mason is married to the beautiful Jasmine Mason, and they have 4 wonderful children. Dr. Mason is a change agent, a mover and a shaker, and a humble servant leader with a big heart for his community. Dr. Mason's keynote address today is titled Together for Recovery: Community Edification and Recovery for African American Males. Let's welcome our keynote, Dr. Damon Mason, Newton County Board of Commissioner for District 2.
It's all right.
To a
I'm going to take this mic off.
Go ahead. Pastor.
Yes, that's normally how we do it sometimes. Well, I want to say good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
And Thank you, Dr. Izzard, for that amazing introduction. She is doing phenomenal work in the community, and it is just an honor to be able to work with her hand in hand, really helping to elevate our community and take it to another level. And as you can see, I've done a lot of great things in our community. And so it is just an honor to be able to partner with her in this whole mental health, African-American male wellness, really helping take them, change the trajectory of our community. I also have to say my family are on their way. I have to give honor always to my wife, Mrs. Jasmine Mason. Give honor to my amazing 4 children, Jalen, Ariel, TJ, and Tristan. They are the inspiration of what I do on a daily basis. And so as Dr. Izzard talked about today, what I'm going to be focusing on and talking about today in this African American Male Wellness Symposium, it's really going to be centered around wellness. And so when you think about wellness, wellness is the act of practicing healthy habits on a daily basis to attain better physical and mental health outcomes, so that instead of just surviving, you are actually thriving, meaning that you're taking it to a whole nother level. And to understand the significance of wellness, it's important to understand how it's linked directly to your health. And so when I think about personal wellness, I think about the whole man, not just part of the man, but the whole man. I think of how do we advance ourselves spiritually, physically, and financially. And we incorporate those things into our mind, our body, and our soul. They are all encompassed and work together. And so looking at how those work together, it should be our life goal to enhance our lives as we focus on all of these areas, as we focus on our physical health, as we focus on our mental wealth, as we focus on our spiritual beings, and even as we focus on how we financially are within our lives as well. And so as an elected official, as Dr. Izzard stated, back in 2019, I was honored to become sit on the Board of Commissioners for Newton County. And so as an elected official for District 2, that's right, for District 2, thank you, Dr. Izzard, for correcting that. It is definitely my responsibility, I believe, to help educate our community in a myriad of different areas. And so I believe it is my objective to empower them, empower our residents, to empower our citizens so that they'll be able to leave a legacy. I like to say that it is important that we become legacy builders. And as a legacy builder, you are always looking at your mindset, and you're striving and reaching and obtaining towards what we would call greatness in every aspect of your life, while leaving an extraordinary positive impact with those that you come across and that you impact every single day. Being a legacy builder is always someone that seeks to change someone's life. And that's what we're doing here today with this African American Male Symposium. We are here to positively impact and to change lives. We know historically for years, sometimes we haven't always had the best opportunities or had the best things presented to us. And so now we've got to work on changing our mindset so that we can help change our community and change our mindset so that we can strive towards greatness and making a difference in our life. And some of the ways that I do that as an elected official, I have actually partnered with the local Newton County Mentoring Inc. program. It is a mentorship program where we mentor young men, young ladies on how to really take their lives to another level and how to really be great men and women in society. I'm just a firm believer that sometimes, even as young men, we may not have that opportunity to have dad in the home or to have our fathers in the home. Sometimes we've been raised by single mothers. And so I think having that extra mentorship outside of the home kind of helps guide and direct our young men to help them get where they should be and help them with their daily situations. How many know that our young men are dealing with a lot of different issues? They're dealing with a lot of issues. And sometimes we don't understand or realize what it is that they're truly dealing with. And so if we sit down and have those one-on-one conversations with them to really understand what is it that you're dealing with? What is it that you're struggling with? What type of peer pressure or things that you're dealing with in school, at home, in your community, in your neighborhood? What are you dealing with? And we get to understand that someone like me or you, we can now take and really look at that and say, okay, now we can provide them with steps or provide them with tools that will help them move beyond what it is, and that's something that's keeping them stagnant and keeping them from moving forward. We can now help them get beyond that, break through that, and get to the next level. We see that even a lot of our young men, because they don't have the guidance, they don't have the mentorship, sometimes they end up in the juvenile system. As a matter of fact, I have 3 mentees. One of my mentees was going through the juvenile system. And so I had to kind of step in and work with him, work with mom. He was stealing. He was they call it vaping, smoking, doing a lot of things that his friends were doing, or even his older brother was doing. And so he was under a lot of peer pressure. And so being under peer pressure, he felt like, well, these are some things that I should do as well, because now I'm going to be able to fit in. And so I had to come in and have a conversation. And after he stole some things, mom called, and she called the juvenile system, and they went to court. And then she said, well, I don't want my baby to go into the system now. And so I said, okay, well, let's sit down, have a conversation. Let's work with him. Let's get him on the right track. And so us as a community doing things like that really helps our young people get through the things that they're dealing with. In addition to that, I actually started a Young Leadership Alliance where I meet with young leaders between the ages of 14 to 40 every single month. And we sit down and we talk about, what are some of the things that are going on in your life? What are some of the things that you're struggling with? So what are some of the things that you're dealing with? And they are able to share what it is that they're going through, and my team and I, we're able to sit down, diagnose what it is they're going through, and help them work through those, bring in subject matter experts, teach them about things such as, peer pressure, dealing with drug pressure, also how to be an entrepreneur, how to, get your career, marriage, family, and we sit down and work through all of those different things. The young man that I mentioned to you earlier, Also in Newton County, we have the Newton County Boys and Girls Club. And so it's an amazing, amazing program to really help keep our young people engaged and involved. And if we have activities and things for them to do, it keeps them out of trouble. And so I referred him to our Newton County Boys and Girls Club, and he got there and he was actively involved. And now we can begin to see some progress in his life just by getting him involved in that Boys and Girls mentoring, or that Boys and Girls Club program. We also in Newton County have our Newton County Resource Court, which is a major enhancement program to our community. With the Newton County Resource Court, it is a collaborative court that's designed to address the needs of individuals that are diagnosed with a severe and persistent mental illness, who have committed criminal acts and who are being prosecuted for those acts by the Newton County District Attorney's Office. This resource court provides treatment to court participants in conjunction with community supervision by the Sheriff's Department and probation officers, and drug testing to address the underlying causes of criminal activity and recidivism. Some of the basic requirements to be a part of this resource court: you must be a Newton County resident. You have to be diagnosed of a severe and persistent mental illness or a co-occurring mental illness and substance abuse disorder. And you also have to have unresolved charges or pending probation revocation. And so we see this happening sometimes a lot. As I mentioned, we're sometimes sending our young men through the juvenile system. This is one of the ways that we can actually help address and prevent them from moving further into that jail system even as an adult. Newton County has a population of 113,000 residents as of the 2020 U.S. Census, and about 23,000, a little bit over 23,000 of those residents are black males. Yes, about 23,000 of those are black males, and approximately, now this may not be as accurate because I had to go in and figure out my own formula of this, but about 200 of those black males currently serve or are part of the population in our jail system in Newton County, about 200. And so that means if we can reach our young men, 14, 15, 16, younger, if we can reach them now, we can prevent them from getting to this point where they're a part of that 200. Now that I saw this statistical data, what can I do as an elected official now to help address those concerns? How can I prevent that 200 to be 100, to be 50, to possibly even 0? And I think incorporating some of these things that I mentioned previously about the Young Leadership Alliance that I've incorporated, our Boys and Girls Club, mentoring programs, even bringing in a lot of your 100 Black Men, some of those organizations, your fraternities that have mentorship programs, bringing them into your community to really help the young men so that we can prevent them from being a part of that 200 that's in that jail population. And then we even know too, sometimes some of those that are in that 200 jail population, they have issues like substance abuse issues. They have mental health issues. And what are we doing as a community to address those concerns? I started a unsheltered job and housing initiative in Newton County when I realized last year that we are having more and more people that are unsheltered, that are not in homes. And so how can we address that concern? And so I stepped up as a leader and said, what can I personally do as an elected official? And so I started that Unsheltered Job and Housing Initiative. I brought in the person that's over our shelter. I brought in the Chamber of Commerce. I brought in the vice president of the Georgia Piedmont Technical College. I brought in the executive director of our housing authority. And I sat all of them down at a boardroom table, and I said, this is my vision. My goal is to transport those individuals that are currently in our homeless shelter and get them to Georgia Piedmont Technical College, get them trained in a 5-week or a 15-week program. Once they graduate from that program, they will automatically be placed on an actual job in Newton County, earning $16 to $28 per hour. Now they're generating revenue, and then we'll find affordable housing for them so that they can get reacclimated back into the community. I'm also in the process now of bringing on Viewpoint Health, which is a mental health and substance abuse organization there in Newton County, so that we can address that mental health. We can address the substance abuse so that as they get to the point where they're on a job, they're in a home, they don't fall back and relapse back into that mental health condition. I found when I did a tour in our jail, we actually have a mental health ward where we have to put some of those individuals in actual cell, in a place, in a room, kind of by themselves because of the mental health. And so we've got to really, really focus on that jail population and those individuals that may not even really be criminals, but they're there because of the mental health and the substance abuse issues, and they haven't received the assistance that they needed. And some of them are young boys and girls who've never gotten help, and now they end up there. So we definitely want to be able to address that concern as well. And so being an African American male myself, growing up as an African American male, and many of African American males can probably attest to this, my parents always told me that there were generally 2 strikes against me. One, that I was black, and 2, that I was a male. And so I always had to be cautious and cognizant of when I'm out in public, how I'm presenting myself, what I'm doing. Even when I'm approached by police officers, how do I conduct myself? I had one lady tell me, she said, son, you say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and you go on about your business. You don't argue with the police. You don't go back and forth with the police, because that's a way of preventing me as a young black male from being into the judicial system, so that I won't have a record, so that I can continue to be productive in society. Sometimes when we get those things on our record, like misdemeanors or felonies, it prevents us sometimes from really being productive citizens in our community, because a lot of times people will look at your record. Oh, well, he's a felon, or he has a misdemeanor of this. And so we want to make sure that we do everything we can to prevent our males from being that way. As a matter of fact, not only am I a black male, an African American male, but I have 3 African American sons. I have a 17-year-old son. He'll tell you, Daddy is always so hard. Daddy is always on me. And I tell him that one day he's going to be very appreciative of what Daddy has done, and Daddy has been so hard and tough on him, because I don't want him in the system. I don't want him to engage in any criminal activity. I want him to be a great man in society. He's about to be a senior in high school coming up this fall. After that, yes, that's a good place. Senior in high school. An exceptional young man, very smart, A/B student. It's so funny because for years his teachers have always said, Mr. and Mrs. Mason, can we clone your son? I mean, just a great young man. And so because I see greatness in him, it is my responsibility to, in private, have that tough love so that he doesn't end up behind bars. He doesn't end up getting engaged with drugs. And so, those are things. And then, I have a 6-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. So I really have to make sure that I'm engaged in our community so that I can teach them how to be great men in society. And so I also tell them, even a part of being when you look at wellness, we've got to, as men, sometimes we don't know how to do this. Sometimes we got to get our rest. We got to get our relaxation. I was just having a conversation with my son this morning. I said, son, well, I don't understand why you're going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, then you're up at 5 or 6. Are you getting proper rest? Are you getting proper sleep? It's so important to get the proper rest so that your body can function the way that it needs to be and you can be great. I said, you can't even do that when you go to school, get a couple hours and think you can function because your brain is not going to work well. And so teaching him and teaching them, your proper rest. And sometimes we got to have a vacation. We got to have a getaway. We're getting ready to next month, and we're excited about it. And so those are things that I really work on. And, going to the gym, my 6-year-old always says, Daddy, you're going to the gym again today? Yes, I am. You have to go to the gym every single day. Yes. If you want Daddy to be around for you, if you want Daddy to be around for you to grow up and you get married and you to have children, Daddy has to exercise. He has to focus on good nutrition. I do run an online health and wellness nutrition franchise. And so I do teach people how to cleanse their body from a cellular level, how to de-stress their body, how to get the proper nutrition into their bodies. That's what we've got to even do with our young males and even our men as a whole. We've got to focus on our nutrition, focus on our health. Our health is our wealth. Either you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later. So if you choose not to really focus on your health and focus on your, reducing your stress levels, you get older, heart attacks, heart disease, cancer, all of these various levels of dis-ease now creeps up into our body because we didn't take preventative measures. We want to prevent and not try to diagnose after we've done that. And so even when I look at my vision for Newton County, Georgia, for our community, I basically want to consistently find ways to support our African American male programs, whether they are in African American churches, African American fraternities, African American organizations such as NAACP, encouraging our African American males to become actively involved in these organizations and affiliations to really help them see that they can achieve higher levels of greatness. And so when I think about even community education and even engaging in recovery efforts such as mental health and social change, it is necessary to provide opportunities for advancement. I mentioned earlier, sometimes we don't get those opportunities. And so as an elected official, I've got to find ways and make ways for opportunities for our young men. As a matter of fact, my son, just because I was an elected official, I was connected with some people and found out that there's a program called Peer Suaders. And what they do is they take high school students and they teach them and they train them over marriage, family, careers, education, and they pay them to teach them. They pay these young men and women to teach them how to be productive citizens in society. And so I was exposed to that opportunity. And so now, because I was exposed to that opportunity, I can now share that with my son, get him involved, get him engaged so that he can learn and not be a statistic. And so just creating and finding those opportunities, I believe, is what we need to do. And that's my vision for Newton County, surrounding counties. We have 159 counties in the state of Georgia. We want to reach as many young African-American males as we possibly can. I even realized, and I talked a little bit about the earlier, the Unsheltered Job and Housing Initiative. I'm finding out that there's a lot of men that are unsheltered for whatever those reasons may be. There's a myriad of different reasons. And so we've got to work with them, bring in mental health counselors, bring in substance abuse counselors. You never know what these men have gone through, which caused them to be at the level that they're at now. And so we've got to create more and more opportunities for them. So as I close this address on today, bring it to a level of close, it is important that we as a community remember to continue uplifting and encouraging everyone within our community, especially our young males, to live their best life while they're focusing on their wellness. Additionally, finding ways in their community to focus on events and group efforts to ensure that we're doing all that we can to change the trajectory of our community. And so I found a quote that I want to leave you with today. It was by a gentleman by the name of Greg Anderson. And he said, "Wellness is the complete integration of body, mind, and spirit. The realization that everything that we do, think, feel, and believe has an effect on our state of well-being." And I thought that was an awesome, awesome quote to leave you all with today. So thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to share with you on some ways how we can help encourage and boost our young African-American males and teach them how to become well, how they can be involved, and how we can help change the trajectory of their lives. So thank you for this opportunity to speak to you all today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason. Don't you go nowhere, please, sir. Yes, we are so grateful to have an amazing commissioner serving in Newton County. And as you all can see, he is very knowledgeable of what it takes to have a successful community. And this is what we all should be striving for as it relates to when we address our elected officials. We need to see that they have that big heart for their community. And something I love that Dr. Kerwin B. Lee states, he says, you know, we are in our community to serve our community because we have a heart for our community. And we know that makes a huge difference when you have a heart for your community and what you're doing in service, what you're doing in ministry, what you're doing in education, what you're doing in any level of service. If you have a heart, you're going to do it genuinely. So Dr. LaCleisha Izzard wants to present to you a beautiful keynote award to say thank you for your service. So it says Shekinah Counseling African American Male Wellness Symposium. Keynote, Dr. Damon Mason, recognition for your impeccable community service for 2022. I present to you, sir. Thank you, and I honor you.
Thank you.
Okay, can we get a picture? Can you come a little closer up here, ma'am? We need to get a close-up. Thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. Wonderful keynote address. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We are so grateful. So, as I mentioned to you all earlier, you are absolutely in for several treats for the men that we have coming up and speaking on today. So I'm excited about introducing to you this next speaker. His name is Dr. Maurice Cassell. Dr. Maurice Cassell is a licensed professional counselor. I'm going to say that again. He's a licensed professional counselor. There's a story behind that, y'all. But he is a licensed professional counselor. He is a national board certified counselor, and he holds a certificate, okay, in pharmacology from the Harvard Medical School. All right now. I told you they coming with it now. They coming with it today. Dr. Cassell's counseling experience includes mental health clinics, crisis stabilization units, school-based counseling, tele-mental health counseling, and even, yes, faith-based counseling. Oh, yeah, he's a minister too. Okay, absolutely. Yeah, we got all these men of God up here, okay? He has also been able to provide these services not just in Georgia, but also in the great state of New York, where he hails from, okay? Dr. Cassell has taught crisis intervention training for the past 3 years. And you'll continue to learn a little bit more about these programs. You hear these acronyms, but you'll continue to learn a little bit more about these programs as well and what they do. But CIT helps to train individuals as first responders, okay, such as police officers, school resource officers, and clinical providers and more. It trains these first responders on how to deal with crisis in the community, okay, especially when it comes to mental health and substance use. Dr. Cassell is also the founder and CEO of C3, okay, in this together, where he hosts a virtual series titled In Our Own Voice, with topics such as developmental disabilities, mental health, suicide prevention, and more. Dr. Cassell is also a founding member of NAMI Georgia's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Dr. Cassell is an Afro-Caribbean American man, hey, because he also hails from the great Jamaica man. Okay. Dr. Cassell is a graduate of Liberty University's master's and PhD programs in the Department of Counselor Education and Family Studies and School of Behavioral Sciences. So again, I tell you, he comes loaded, you all. But before he comes on up, I just want to share a little bit about where our nation currently is as it relates to racial trauma, as it relates to crisis response. We are really in a delicate situation now, you all. We're seeing so much trauma, so much crisis, whether it's shootings in our schools, whether it's things that we're seeing just walking out on the street. I was on the way here this morning, stopped at the grocery store, and it was a lady. She was just walking around the parking lot and just talking to herself. And of course, as a licensed mental health professional, I knew exactly what was going on. But again, what do you do when we're in crisis situations and we need help? These individuals need help. What's the best response? That's something that our nation is struggling with. And they're working on it. And they have some new things that they're working toward and that they're implementing. And Dr. Cassell is going to talk a little bit about some of those things. But we got to get better, you all. We got to get better when it comes to this. NAMI Georgia did something great this year that I was really, really excited about. They did a campaign called Reimagine, okay? A week of action to reimagine our national response to people with mental health and crisis, so that we could bring awareness to some of the challenges that we're facing in our nation and to some of the solutions that we need to do to move forward and do better as it relates to crisis response. So without further delay, Dr. Cassell will speak to us today on the topic of Yes, We Can. Policing improvements, crisis response, and best counseling approaches for African American males' racial battle fatigue. All right, come on down, Dr. Cassell. Buckle your seatbelts now, you all. You want to hold it or you want to put it up there?
Allow me, if you don't mind. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh, what a great honor it is to be here for the amazing African American Male Symposium. Can we put our hands together for this great opportunity? Talking about men. I'm so honored again to be a part of this amazing symposium. I do want to honor the leadership of this house, as was mentioned earlier, Dr. Jamal Bryant, of course, one of the most prolific, profound, and prominent gifts to the body of Christ, the church, and community at large. So can we put our hands together for him? I believe in honoring leadership. Also want to recognize, of course, Elder Saylor. Thank you so much, sir, for all that you do to come alongside men and the work that you do here at New Birth Baptist Church. Also, we want to recognize again our amazing, prolific, profound, dynamic, amazing Dr. LaCleisha Izzard. Can you put your hands together for her? Dr. Izzard, thank you for all that you do to bring hope to our communities and being a community champion. Of course, I also want to honor all of our colleagues who will share today. Again, thank you so much for this great opportunity. Well, we're going to jump right in. Of course, you see the topic here. Let me make sure that this is working. Can we do that? I don't know if we can. All right, technology when it works.
It's awesome.
There you go. Let's see if we're going to get it. Probably not. I may have to go over and do it manually. All right. If you don't mind, sir. I thought we had it earlier. All right, so here's how we're going to begin, actually. You've got a balloon in your hand, again, we're talking on the topic, Yes, We Can, Policing Improvements and Best Counseling Approaches for African American Male Racial Battle Fatigue. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you doing that. All right, thank you. So let's go to the next slide. We're going to begin with an exercise. I call this a balloon exercise or a balloon release. So here's what I want you to do in your seat. If you don't mind, I want you to join me. We're going to blow up a balloon. What did he just say? We are going to blow up a balloon. Now, you're saying, Dr. Cassell, this is a symposium that is scholarly, professional. You're asking us as adults to blow up a balloon. Mercy, where is he going with this? But on three, I want you to go ahead, get out your balloons, stretch your balloons. Again, someone is wondering, this is a professional symposium. This is a scholar. Do you know who we are? Do you see us in our suits and our ties and our dresses? Do you know our accolades and our titles? That's all right, my friends. We're going to make it work today. So on three, I want you to go ahead and blow up your balloon. There you go. Look at this. I got these amazing professionals blowing up balloons. Dr. Izzy, this is historic. We're going to talk about this for weeks. There you go. Go ahead and release your balloons. Good job on that. Give yourselves a hand for blowing up a balloon. Listen to the sounds of those balloons being released. Excellent, excellent. So someone says, let's go to the next slide. Why a balloon, Dr. Cassell? Why are you having us blow up a balloon? Here are some things I'd like for us to consider. Number one, much like the experience of blowing up a balloon, here it is, that it's important that we help African American men recognize that we all have emotions and we need a place to release those emotions. Wow. Number two, we must create safe places for African American men to place those emotions that we hold sacred. Did you just hear that? We must create safe places for those sacred emotions. Number three, African American men are often socialized. We're often socialized to stuff, and suppress our emotions, which can lead to what? Self-medication, rather than experiencing the full spectrum of our emotions. In other words, we're more than just one emotion. We're not just angry or sad. We have a full spectrum of emotions, and our job is to help African American men experience that full spectrum of emotions. Number 4, you see it on the screen. We need competent, and not just competent, but culturally competent interventions that practice what's called cultural humility. And you'll hear a little bit more about that today, to address the racial fatigue of the African American male experience. So someone again says, why the balloon experience? It's all to set this slide up, to tell you we have to have a place for African American men to place that racial fatigue that we often feel. Number 5, by virtue of the lived experience of the African American males, it is important that we see through what's called the lens of what's called trauma-informed lens. So as we work with African American males, as we come alongside us as African American males, we should see through what's called trauma-informed lens. And here's the key, where it's not what's wrong with you, but it's what happened to you. Wow, did you just hear that? It's not what's wrong with you, sir. What's wrong with you, him? It's what's wrong with you, young man. It's what may have happened to you. And number 6, it's important to note that trauma is not limited to a timeline or geography, but it's revealed through what? Through triggers. So as we work with African American men, we want to see through these lenses. Let's go to the next slide, if you would. Thank you for doing that, sir. And here's a great example or a picture I wanted to kind of put in your mind to help us understand this idea of seeing through trauma-informed lens. As you could see, this is called the tree of traumatic adaptations, the tree of traumatic adaptations. And here's what that says. It helps us to see why, as African American males, sometimes we respond the way that we do. And the reason is this: it's what may have happened to us at some point in our lives. So the reason why I might be hypervigilant, why there's spiritual detachment, maybe untrusting or aggressiveness, it's not so much the fruit, but it's the root of what may have happened. Does that make sense? So as we work with African American men, we want to see through these lenses what happened to your root that's causing your fruit. Does that make sense? Yeah. So let's go to the next slide, and let's give a definition of racial fatigue. We're talking about racial fatigue. I love what Mary Frances Winters says in her book that's titled How Racism Erodes the Mind, the Body, and Spirit. She gives a definition, or 2 definitions here, that I want to again put in your sight. She says it this way: it's repeated variations of stress that results in extreme exhaustion and causes mental, physical, and spiritual maladies that are passed down from what? From generation to generation. And here's the other part that I really love what she says in relation to defining racial fatigue. She says, it's a resounding chorus from the BIPOC community that says, we are exhausted. Wow. Just kind of take that in for a little bit. We are exhausted. And the truth is, as a BIPOC community, we are exhausted. Is that right? Yeah. There you go. So let's move forward to the next slide. And again, thank you for doing that. I can't believe I've got the commissioner. Oh, mercy. Talk about favor in the house. It must be the house that we're in, New Birth. I've got favor, the commissioner. Oh, my. Hey, let's move forward. My wife is watching, by the way. I'm sure she is. You heard my bio. Let me pause right here. And as a good husband, you've heard all of what I've done and the accomplishments. But the greatest work that I do is that of being husband to my wife, Diane, and being father to my 2-year-old who was born on 2/20/2020. Wow. So I call her, we call her our double portion blessing. So anyhow, so what does racial fatigue look like like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? So when we talk about racial fatigue, what is it looking like? What is it sounding like? What is it feeling like for African American males and just the BIPOC community? Well, COVID-19, here's some things that we've learned. Early in the pandemic, we learned that the reports told us that black people were 2 to 4 times more likely to die from the disease. Right? What does it feel like in terms of household income? Black houses have the lowest median household income and net worth of any demographic group. Wow. What does it look like and feel like and sound like in terms of employment rates? Employment rates for blacks, as you can see on the screen, have doubled those of whites since the 1960s. Wow, we're giving some stats here, right? The workforce. Black employees with college or advanced degrees, as you can see, are more likely than their white counterparts to be underemployed relative to our skills. In terms of elected officials, and we've got some officials in the House, of course, we celebrate the election of our first black U.S. President, Barack Obama. Put your hands together. 2008 and 2012, we've also seen tremendous progress as it relates to representation of black and brown people in the House of Representatives. But here's what I have on the screen. Despite all these advancements in terms of elected officials, we've seen little progress in terms of the Senate and even locally. Can I just walk us a little bit to the local elected officials? And we're in church, so everybody say amen. There we go. We're allowed to say we've got the leader and the elder in the house here. What is our racial fatigue? Let's go to the next slide. What does it look like and sound like as we continue to just give you some more statistics? In terms of education, public schools that are attended by the majority of black and brown children are usually underfunded and underperforming. That's the statistics. What about criminal justice? What does it look like in terms of racial fatigue? Did you know that today the 3 largest psychiatric treatment facilities are prisons? Let that sink in for a moment. The 3 largest places that offer service in terms of mental health are prisons. New York City, Rikers Island, LA County, and Chicago. Here are some other numbers. 1 in 3 African American males are more likely to serve a lifetime prison sentence, which can be a sentence of over 10 years. Wow. 40%. Almost 41% of African American males make up the U.S. prison population. And closer to home, in Fulton County, I learned this recently, 90% of the Fulton County jail is made up of African American males. And you're saying, why are you taking the time to give all these statistics? This is why this symposium is so important today, because of the racial fatigue that we're seeing. Let's talk about health disparities as it relates to black people, and you've seen some of the numbers here, and I'll go through quickly for the sake of time. Black people are 44% more likely to die from a stroke. Black people are 20% more likely to have asthma and 3 times more likely than white people to die from it. Black people are 25% more likely to die from heart disease. Black men are 30% more likely, and black women 60% more likely to be diagnosed with high blood pressure. Black men are 1.3 times more likely to be diagnosed with colon cancer and 20% more likely to die from it. Black children are 61% more likely to attempt suicide as high school students. And somebody says, where are these numbers coming from? Listen, I've done the research. We understand research and how numbers are. The bottom line is that our communities are experiencing great racial fatigue. We can't talk about African American males without talking about our black women. Can I get an amen in the house? Amen. So in terms of black woman fatigue, please say her name. We've heard this before and we've seen this before, but it's worth repeating here. Malcolm X says this: the most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. Black woman racial fatigue. Listen to some numbers. Black women are more likely to be incarcerated, are more likely to be killed by law enforcement. They're more likely to live in poverty. They're more likely to be single mothers, and they fare worse in the workplace in terms of being underemployed and underpaid. Listen to what this amazing doctor said, amazing quote. If you're ever in his presence, get a picture with him, take a selfie with him. You thought Dr. Phil was good, you thought Iyanla was good. This guy is amazing. Listen to what he said. I just wanted to get a smile out of you. Listen to what he said. If our women are not okay, then we are not okay. Can I get an amen? I had to say that. So as we bring it to a close and kind of put some action to it, let's go to the next slide. And thank you, sir. Here's some things I'd like for us to consider as it relates to addressing the racial fatigue in our African American male community. There's a call, having heard all of these statistics, you'll hear great resources from our presenters today. Here's a call for action, and this call is a collaborative, and I like that, and Dr. Izzy, you're big on that. It's a call for collaborative action. And what's the call? Disable racial fatigue. Let's disrupt racial fatigue. And here are some areas that we're seeing that's helping to address this disabling racial fatigue. We're going to talk just real quickly on the best counseling approaches, policing improvements, the 988 Implementation Act. We're going to talk about barbershop therapy and an area that I'm coining called emotional loan officers. So let's look at these real quickly as we wrap up. Let's look at some best counseling practices for the African American male racial battle fatigue. I won't go through all of these. I just wanted you to see these with your eyes. There are a number of approaches, evidence-based, empirical-based approaches that have been shown to help with that. So as you're helping come alongside African American males, here are some counseling approaches that, again, have been shown to be effective. I just want to highlight two. The collaborative care model is a model that we've seen that's working. It's an integrated model that uses both a primary care and a behavioral health care model where you're combining the both, integrating both to bring hope and healing to conditions like depression, anxiety, and substance use. And then I want to highlight another one, the strength-based approach, which is an approach that I often use in counseling with African American males and just people in general. This approach says what's working in your life and what's your source of strength. So as opposing to being focused on what's not working, you're focusing on what's working. Let's talk about the need for policing improvements for the African American male population. Here's the key. If we're going to help deal with the racial fatigue that African American males that we often experience, it's going to require what's called trauma-informed policing. And we want to really kind of yell that and scream that for our communities, right? That we want our police officers to be trained as it relates to being seeing things through a trauma-informed lens. And what does that mean? I'll just highlight a few things here as we consider it. Here's what that means. From what's wrong with you to what's happened to you. So in other words, we want police officers to say, as I look at you, I want to find out what's wrong, not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. And then we want them to recognize the universal precaution that African American males may have been traumatized, so treat them as such. And then we see some other things, if we could go to that next slide. We see some other things that this approach helps. Of course, it helps to increase empathy, increase cooperation with the citizens. It decreases escalation with the citizens. It helps to reduce some of the trauma that someone may have already experienced. Again, we are calling for police officers in our communities not only to be CIT trained, which is the crisis intervention training model, but we also want them to be trained as it relates to being trauma informed. It helps to support law enforcement, and here are the last two that I really like. It helps police officers to kick some aces. I know I'm in church. Elder Saylor, I got you. We're in church. But what that really means is we want them to understand that they can help manage the adverse childhood experiences. And of course, it builds community trust. Last couple of things, and then I'll close with a story. We're so excited about the 988 Implementation Act that was introduced before the U.S. Congress in March, and that this act is now helping us to launch the 988 Lifeline, which goes live on July 16. Can you put your hands together for that? We've been praying for this. We've been working hard at this as a community, and the 988 line, it will help connect people who are in mental health crisis as opposing to calling 911. They'll be connected with healthcare and behavioral health trained individuals to help to reduce the use of law enforcement, and the list goes on and on. So we're so excited about the 988, which goes live on July 16. Just a few weeks. And if you could go to the next slide, and then we are wrapping up here. Another area that we're finding that's helping with racial fatigue as it relates to African American males is what's called barbershop therapy. Yes. As men, we know this so well, right? As black men, we often receive counseling from our barbers, yes, known as barbershop therapy. So ladies, when we go to get our hair cut, let us get our hair cut, let us get our shape up, because we are getting the therapy that we need, right? So we have found that it's a safe place. It's non-judgmental. It's a trusting environment where we're able to unload our burdens. And that's what happens often in the barbershop. I want to highlight the Confess Project, an amazing project. It's a nonprofit organization. And listen to what they're doing. They are training barbers to be frontline counselors. I love this. For clients who are depressed and traumatized. Oh, mercy. I love that. And listen to this. To date, they have trained over 1,000 barbers in over 40 cities. Oh, you need to put your hands together for that. So we're excited about that. And the last couple of slides here. Here's another area, and this is a phrase actually that I've coined in the work that I do. As we talk about coming alongside African American males as we deal with racial fatigue, I want to challenge all of us to be what I'm calling an emotional loan officer. Right. What does that mean? I can loan to people what they emotionally need in that moment. I loan you my hope, my strength, my resilience. I loan you my silence in the midst of your chaos. Instead of calm down, I say to you, what can I do to help? And here's the key. And someone says, why didn't you call it something else? Here's the key. I loan it to you until you are able to loan it to others. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's this idea of we're passing it on. I want to wrap up, Dr. Izzy, with this picture on the screen. Can we put this picture on the screen? Amazing picture. Story told about Mickey Mouse. We all know who Mickey Mouse is. Story is told that Mickey Mouse was asked to look in the mirror and to draw what he sees in the mirror. When he looked in the mirror, he ended up drawing a picture not of himself, but of his creator, Walt Disney. Wow. Amazing. What's the point? My hope and my prayer is that when African American males, when we look in the mirror, that we would always know that we've been created for a purpose, that we matter, and that we should strive to be the best version of ourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Cassell. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you, thank you. Well done, well done. He gave us some great statistics, just a wealth of knowledge. And again, we are just so grateful to have all of these amazing professional African-American men to come and bring us this great wealth of knowledge. So we're going to keep it moving, y'all, because we on a roll today, okay? We on a roll, and I want to make sure that y'all hear all of them and to the fullest, everything that they have to say. So Dr. Cassell, he went on ahead and he gave some of my statistics that I was going to give, but that's okay. I will make sure to share the one that he did not share. So as he was speaking about policing improvements and even racial battle fatigue and what our statistics look like, prison system, what I think is so profound about one of these statistics, and we really have to take this in and realize this, but 60% of our young African-American males that drop out of urban high school will end up in prison. So as you think about those other statistics that he gave, the 40.2% that we're now seeing in our nation's prison, okay? As you think about the statistic 1 in 3 will end up in prison, think about our young African-American male youth. And just like the commissioner said, we must start early intervention. We must start early intervention with our young African-American males if we really want to see these rates decrease in our prison system. And we know that we have great programs that are now up and coming that are out there to help to reduce, okay, the number of individuals who have been incarcerated, even more so with mental illness and substance use challenges. But we want to prevent them from getting there altogether, even though we know that the programming is helping them who are currently incarcerated to the best of their ability and hopefully diverting them from getting to prison altogether. But we know if we can start with our young African-American males, we can really make a difference. So in saying all that, let me get ready to bring up here next this amazing gentleman. I'm going to introduce you first, sir. Don't come up here yet. He needs no introduction. He absolutely doesn't. But I am going to give him a great introduction because he deserves that just all the more. So, Mr. Bill Carruthers, okay? I call him the world-renowned Bill Carruthers. And you're going to see why in just a few minutes. But Mr. Bill Carruthers is a certified psychiatric rehabilitation practitioner, okay? He is also a certified peer specialist, okay? And he's going to tell you a little bit about what some of those acronyms mean and how he got there. Mr. Carruthers has shared his personal story of addiction, mental health, and his journey to recovery literally throughout the nation, And yes, he has even been to the White House. Yes, to our nation's capital. We need to give a hand clap for that. Indeed. Mr. Carruthers is the founder and CEO of Recovery on Fire, okay? He also serves in leadership for the Rockdale Stepping Up Initiative as well as Grit and Grace Recovery Community Organization, providing information, advocacy, and resources to our communities. Mr. Carruthers, he hosts a weekly Grit and Grace radio show weekly, featuring movers and shakers like myself. I've been a guest on there quite a few times, so I'm grateful, that are in our community to support recovery. Mr. Carruthers is also a United States Navy veteran. I think that's important. Let's give that a hand clap. Okay. Mr. Carruthers will speak to us about a program that literally decreases the number of individuals in the jails with mental illness and substance use, which we know a huge population, like Dr. Cassell just said, are our African-American men. Okay? So his presentation topic today is titled, "It's Time to Step Up." All right. The Stepping Up Initiative and why this community collaboration works so well. Now you can come on up, the world-renowned Mr. Bill Carruthers.
That's so fun.
I love you.
I do that to her all the time, so I know I was gonna get a little payback. Ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. But all seriousness, first and foremost, I'd like to thank the God of my understanding. Because that's what she was talking about. I know people get it twisted. I don't have PowerPoint because I am PowerPoint, right? I don't have any statistics because I am a statistic, right? And I'm the oldest and the newest statistic because I'm a statistic on how to fail big, but I'm also a statistic on how great our God is, right? And so, yeah, for real. And so let's give our God just a hand clap of praise then. Let's do it since we're up in the church. And shout out to the church and to the leaders of the church. Because don't get it twisted and think this church ain't working, right? When I was getting ready to come out here and I was talking to some of my partners and they were saying, because we got a lot of stuff going on, and I said, well, I got something that I got to do today. And they always say, so what you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to Newburgh. They said, oh, you know what I'm saying? Right. Everybody but me knew where I was going, right? So in case you think don't nobody know where you are, they know where you are, and they know who you are, and they know what you are. Anyway, with that being said, so I'd like to shout out to the leaders of the church and shout out to everybody that put this together, because when you invited me into this glorious house of the Lord, you reminded me to not forget to make sure that I invite God into my house and into all of my work. And so I'm grateful for that. My name is Bill Carruthers, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what does that mean? Well, that means I took the wrong road, but I still ended up in the right place. Right? That means that I was supposed to wear green today. So that means I'm practicing progress, not perfection. And I was having a little trouble finding this because, see, I had a plan. I was going to avoid Dr. Izzy till after this part so I wouldn't take the beat down, the red and green beat down. And then she texted me and said, where are you? I said, I'm trying to find the door. She said, I'll come out and meet you. I'm like, oh, right? So some of our systems are still punitive, but I took my beating like a man. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about getting beat today. What I'm talking about is what we're beating. Okay, I'm here to talk to you about this belief. I'm here to talk to you about stepping up, but bigger than that. I know that we live in this problem-focused society, y'all. We live in a society, and people call me all day, every day, and say, Mr. Bill, I got a problem, I got a problem, I got a problem. So for everybody that hears the sound of my voice, I'm getting ready to give you something that you can use. Now, it may be a little bigger than what you believe, but I'm going to try to explain it to you, and it works if you work it. Right? And what that is, I know we live in this problem-focused society, and everybody's talking about what the problem is. Let's identify the problem, let's identify the problem, let's identify the problem. I got a newsflash for you. Having a problem is not that big a deal. Because everybody's got a problem, right? And so I'm going to stand here in front of you today, and I'm in the church, so I'm going to do my best to be honest, right? I'm going to do my best to be truth, because you know what they say, the truth will do what? Absolutely, and the freedom is this whole thing we're talking about. So I'm going to tell you the truth. It might be hard for you to hear. I don't have any problems. I can see you out there in TV land. Everybody's head did like this. Y'all are starting to question my credibility. But that's okay, because it's been questioned on a number of occasions. What I'm saying is I don't have any problems, because what I have are opportunities to create solutions. I don't have any problems because today I have this tremendous opportunity and this tremendous circle of support. And speaking of that circle of support, shout out to all my partners, because this is the third year they let me come back. See, I feel privileged. When I see him, I think, wow, how much sugar did I have today? You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. you guys impact my life, just being able to, because I didn't go to school. See, I went straight to prison. I went to the wrong side of the tracks, right? And so when I get to hang with my partners from those hallowed halls of academia, I be like, yeah, I feel smart today. You understand what I'm saying? It makes me feel smarter just to be standing here, and it makes me feel more grateful. But what it also lets me know is that things are changing, and it lets me know that there are substance to that change. And that substance is kingdom driven. And I know that people are afraid to stand up there and say that their things are kingdom driven, because there's this popular school of thought, don't talk about that. But I got a newsflash for you. That's what saved my life. You understand? Because when I came into this whole thing, and I spent almost 1/3 of my life in prison, I spent 40 years of my life smoking dope and robbing and stealing and all those things. You understand what I'm talking about? And so what I'm here, the reason I got here today is not because that I got on clean clothes today, or not because even though my shirt ain't green, I do have it on frontwards today. That's not why I'm here today. I'm here today because I can remember and I believe that recovery is possible. So if we are going to be the administrators of anything, we have to be armed with that belief, because without that, you've got dung. All right. Straight up. No cut on it. If you can't believe in the people we serve and whatever serves you or puts the batteries in your back, if that belief ain't baked into the DNA of that, well, that's why I'm on this team. Because we're believing in this thing. I got to believe. I don't have a choice. Because I'm a miracle. I have to believe in miracles because I am one. And wouldn't it be tragic that if I was a miracle and I sat there and didn't tell anybody about it? Right? And so that's what, and the foundation of what that conversation is about, is that if we are building systems for recovery and we don't have people in recovery in the facilitation of those systems, in the creation of those systems, then you're building a system for yourself. You feel me? So, because I know this, that when we're creating these programs, if you create this great thing and you go out there with your thing and you say, here, try this, and people try it, and they say, it's horrible. And then your ego says, well, there's something wrong with you. And then you go to the next person, you say, here, you try it. And they say, I hate it. And you say, your ego says, well, you must not want it bad enough. You understand? We can't keep creating systems that feed other systems or that feed the financial perspectives of whatever. We need to start creating systems that serve people. So that's why a lot of the opportunities I have to do work are not inside the church. Right? Because my work is happening inside the jails. It's happening in the street. It happens in the trenches, and it happens our native language, right? Which might be frowned upon at times. You understand? But that's the language I needed to hear, because that's the language I had heard, and I needed to hear that language to understand that I could convert that language to this other language, because it's all based on the word. You understand? And I know it gets distorted, but when you bring it back, it goes back, because in the beginning and the end, I don't have to tell y'all church people that. Y'all know that, right? And so this is the thing. Sometimes for me to be one, I need to see one. And today, I'm just a living representation of that. It's the greatest privilege I've ever had. And since this is the third time, maybe as a result of my lack of dress code, it might be my last time. So if this is my last time, I'm going to make sure I give you my best. Right? And so we're talking about the Stepping Up Initiative. So over there in Rockdale, shout out to Commissioner Doreen Williams. Them commissioners are working with something, y'all. You understand? Yeah. Clap your hands. She had this commitment years ago to serving people that had challenges, right? And in her effort to do that, she couldn't rally all of the forces that were around her, because there's so much division. There's so much division. Almost forgot one thing. How great is our God, right?
Come on, sir.
How great is our God? In that problem-focused society, we sometimes get so caught up because we keep telling God how big our problems are. And we have to change this paradigm. Because as I'm talking to people, I'm telling them, instead of you keep telling God how big your problems is, why don't you tell your problems how big your God is? See, and then that's when things start to change, because we have to have a power greater than us in all our work. Anyway, let me go back. So there you go. I almost forgot. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, so let's go back. The Stepping Up Initiative is a national initiative, but we adopted here in Rockdale County, and it's about reducing the number of people in jails that look like me and you on the inside and the outside. And if you don't know what you look like on the inside, it ain't my fault. But that's what Mickey Mouse was talking about. You understand? He's trying to get you to see what you really look like, or what you could really look like, should, could, or would. Because if you look in the mirror and you can only see you, well, that's why I'm on this team over here. See, because this ain't about me. It's not about me. I've already did the time. It's not about me. I already did the crime. I already know what happens if you keep smoking. I know that time equals crime, crime equals time. I got it. But it took me 50 years to get it, because I grew up in that orphanage and I was raised by wolves. And if we let wolves raise our children will grow up to be wolves, right? No matter what they have on, sheep's clothes or whatever, but I don't have to tell you all that. Anyway, let me go back to the Stepping Up Initiative. Make sure you let me know before my time is up. So the Stepping Up Initiative, some of the things that we're doing, it's the thing that's built on belief. It's the thing that has recovery running all the way through it. My name is Bill. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I'm also the project developer for the Stepping Up Initiative, right? So if the commissioner was brave enough to hire me to sit at the table, yeah, and I'm not talking about who I voted for, but I'm voting for that. I'm voting for somebody who's brave enough to present me as their person to change the world, right? And somebody who, because when you present me as your person, there are going to be some people that say, right? Because I do speak in my native language frequently, right? And I say that to say this. When we came to the table and we started to create that project plan, today we're creating a diversion center which will meet some of those critical clinical needs of people, because there's an intersection with law enforcement, public safety, and people who are in mental health crisis or psychosis, and a lot of horrible things happen right then. And the people who have the custodial responsibility right there, if only one entity, one agency, or one person has total responsibility right there, the odds of failure are overwhelming. That is not a fair composition. And so what we're trying to do is create a place that has a collaborative situation that help people not only get there safe, but get some processing there that they end up in the right place. Right? No matter where they ultimately end up, but they end up first in a safe place, and then we have a collaborative group of people that can determine, where does this person really need to end up? Do they really need to end up in prison? Right? And some people will say, yes, if you commit a crime, you should end up in jail, right? And I don't know, if you were stealing cancer medicine because you had cancer and you can't get a doctor, and yeah, is that a crime? Yeah, it is, but right? And then if you did get convicted of that crime, are they going to take you to jail and then still not give you no cancer medicine? No wonder you said, I might as well die like this. So, and I say all that, so that's one of the things that we're looking at. Another thing that we have an embedded clinician. We have what we call an intercept clinician. That is somebody who's inside the system, somebody who's inside the court, somebody who's inside the jail, somebody who can give a clinical determination and a collaborative determination on where those people should, could, or would end up in that system. They're talking to the judges, they're talking to the public defenders, they're talking to the DAs, we're talking with law enforcement, we're talking with jailers, we're talking with the provider network, and we're bringing a lot of people to the table before you go to jail. You understand? So that's another one of the things we're doing. We have 3 co-responder teams. We've got one that works with the city, and that's where a clinician is with the officers when they arrive on the scene of a mental health crisis. We also have another team with the Opening Doors to Recovery Project that has a 3-person team, a clinician, a person in recovery, and a family member, so that we can respond to those people's criminal needs when they interact with law enforcement. And we also have a team that's being put together to work with our sheriff's department as well. And that's a solution-based, solution-focused deal, right? We also have Grit and Grace, which is a recovery community organization, because it takes grit and it takes grace, yes. Right? And I'm not here because I'm smart. I'm here because of grace.
Come on, sir.
I'm not here because I'm smart. I eat sugar. I'm sorry. I'm eating less. When I saw your name, I said, woo, man. I felt guilty when I put the sugar on my cereal. I was like, I'm not even going to sit next to him today. But what I'm saying is because we can recover. So I say that to say this. In Grit and Grace, it is a clinical-based place where people can find connection. It's a place where we've got peer support. It's designed by people in recovery. It's run by people in recovery. We're giving jobs to people in recovery. And we're going into the jails. We're going into the hospitals. We're going into wherever. And we got a place where people can come into an unrestricted environment, and we can do whatever gets us well and whatever gets our community well. You feel me? Because we're going to bring families up in there and teach them how to, if we can get you to come, teach them how to eat better. And we're going to bring families up in there, because if the person is sick, the family is suffering.
All right.
There's no way around it. If I'm eating sheetrock and stealing your car, you are impacted. Right? If you got somebody that you love that's dying right in front of you, you are impacted. And you, not only do they need help, you need help too, right? So we're going to have those type of situations. We're going to have a place where people can just come and maybe just let's look at movies, let's eat popcorn. I need to see, I've probably had more doctor's appointments that I've missed than most people have ever seen doctors, right? And I had never seen a doctor eat before, though. I didn't know doctors eat. I thought they just wrote prescriptions. I never sat down with a judge and had a meal, because most of the judges I saw, I was walking like this when I seen them, right? I didn't know police officers have families and that they eat and that they cry and that all those things. See, because I was living in a vacuum, a cultural vacuum, and I could only see through the lens that the wolves taught me. And I resented you because you were well-dressed. I resented you because you were well-educated. I resented you because I didn't have a you. I grew up without a mother. So if you had one, and that's why I used all those bad words with mother connected to it. You understand? Because I didn't realize the value of those things, right? So we got to have a place where people can get their value systems upgraded. A place where you can put some batteries in your back. All right. A place where you can see other people recovering. Because I'm be honest with you. Even after I stopped smoking dope, I still didn't know what to do. I was still hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. My trauma was still my mama. I didn't know what to do about it. I just knew now y'all was telling me don't smoke no dope about it. Don't drink about it. Guess what? When I stopped smoking dope and stopped drinking, my problems didn't go away. I was really confused then. I thought maybe you should chain me up, right? That's why we can't just help people find freedom, but we have to help them learn to facilitate freedom, both for themselves and for other people. Because this is a thing. This is a to-go dish. This thing is like chicken. You can eat the bones if you want to, but you can spit them out. You feel me? And because there's somebody out there, and I don't know if you've ever met her, but Aunt Lucille, she eats chicken bones. Sure it is. But I remember the first time I seen somebody eating the chicken bones, I was like, whew. And I've done a lot of things, but never eat chicken bones, not on purpose. I eat some by mistake, right? And so I say that to say this. So not only do we have Grit and Grace, but we also do a radio show. Because if you have a message and you don't give it away, then you just have a story. If you got a message, your message is for who you give it to. And if your message is transformational, if your message is the good news, why do you want to keep your message in an anonymous container? Why do you want to put your light under the table, under the basket? Why not put it up on the hill and let it shine? It may not be perfect. It may be red and everything else is green. Praise God. Don't let her get me, y'all. Don't let her get me. I know y'all can see me out there in radio land. Take a good look at me if I come up missing. But anyway, so not only do we have that, but we're taking programs into the jails. And into every quotient of the jail. Because I remember when people said, no, we're already doing that. You can't be doing it because you ain't got one of these. Right? And you said, well, we're going to wait till after wait till when? Wait till when? We can't keep waiting until we hit the wall and then pray. We can't wait till we hit the wall and then try to recover. We can recover before we uncover. We can do it now.
Yes.
We can step to it now. Yes. So, with that being said, we also have some transportation concepts that we're looking at. Because what is the use in having it if we people can't get to it? Because you get in your fancy car, in your Mercedes or your Lexus, guess what? I'm not here because I got a fancy car. I'm here because I remember when I couldn't make it to here. I don't appreciate these shoes I got on because of how much they cost. I appreciate them because I remember when I didn't have no shoes. You understand? Don't get it twisted and don't forget. And if you don't have the experience to forget, get somebody that does. Because that's where true belief comes from. Not from being fat and fed, but being hungry. If you ain't hungry, how much time I got left? Okay, so if you had 3 minutes left before your doctor's appointment, what I would suggest you do is remember the most important thing that you have. The most important thing I have today is this relationship with this loving God who is the author of my program. The most important thing I have today, y'all, is this relationship that I have with this recovering community. This is not a me problem. This is a we problem. And if we got a we problem without a we solution, that's why we keep calling that thing a problem. Together we are stronger. So if you can hear the sound of my voice, Grit and Grace, RCO, you can see us on Facebook, you can connect with us, or you can get to Grit and Grace, RCO. That's our email at gmail.com. Get in touch with us so I can put you on the radio. So more people will eat less sugar. So stevia, right? It's not like we don't know. We just need some discipline. See, there's a difference between having a good plan and having the commitment to carry it out. It's a difference between being smart and having knowledge and transferring that into the people. So let's get it to the people. So let me say, I got 1 minute, 2 minutes, a minute and a half. Okay, if you had a minute and a half left before your doctor's appointment, what would you say? I would say thank you. To everybody that hears the sound of my voice, thank you. Thank you to my colleagues for giving me a chance. Thank you, Dr. Cassell. Thank you for them PhDs, man. If y'all was here, man, y'all would be able to smell it, man. It is palatable, man. Gray matter. It's like electric. I want to thank you, man. I want to thank you for letting me be here. I want to thank you for every good thing you've done. Those good things that you do, I want to thank you for them. Even the stuff you do by accident, I'm going to thank you for that too. Because it's never too late to do the right thing. My name is Bill. I'm a person in long-term recovery. You guys saved my life. Greatest privilege I ever had was to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bill Carruthers. I told you was in for a treat. Didn't I tell you? So we're going to take a little pause before we do our 5-minute break. I want to check to see if we have any questions from our in-person audience, or see just if maybe they want to give a comment, about the information that they're getting and what they're receiving. So our presenters who have already spoke, I would like for you to just come up and just kind of stand right here. So Dr. Mason, Bill, Dr. Cassell, can y'all just come up real quickly and just stand? Come on up, fellas. Come on up. Gentlemen. Sorry about that. Okay. Now for our individuals who are in our audience, y'all go ahead. Hey, Dr. Cassell. Think about what you have heard each presenter speak about today. And I just want you to think for about 10 seconds. If it's something that you heard that really resonated with you, if it's something that you heard that was new for you, that you hadn't heard before, and I want you to share that so that we can know what you're getting on today. And of course, if you have a question, feel free to ask that question and just state who you're asking the question to that is up here. Everybody with me? Okay. Raise your hand. Okay. Come on up, sir.
Hey, how you doing? I don't need this.
You don't need the mic. Well, you've got to have it because we record.
How you doing? This is for Dr. Cassell. I think you touched on a lot of topics that are prevalent to a lot of additional communities and outreach programs. I want to know how we can get in contact with either you or get a copy of that presentation so we can elaborate on some of those concepts a little bit more.
Thank you. That's Mr. Mario. Y'all will be hearing from him in a minute.
So you could reach me at C3 In This Together. That's my website. I'll do this. You can reach me at c3inthistogether.com. C3 in this, the letter C, the number 3 inthistogether.com. And what I've done on that website is I wanted our people to have access to many of the resources that we've talked about today. So I took the time to put all of that in one area. Of course, you can also reach me through NAMIGA.org, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness here in Georgia.
Thank you, Dr. Cassell. Anybody else want to share a comment or have a question? Come on now. Name and tell us who you are, please.